My summer bag. This is only about 12 pounds, I think, last time we weighed it. But in the winter, you got a lot more supplemental gear, a lot more to do with shelter. You don't really have the option to carry something really small. It's just not feasible. Normally, these are attached to the bag, but they don't fit in the toolbox of my truck with them attached, and sometimes they come off, so I just keep them separate until I actually have to do it. All right, so we're gonna go over the kits. This is my IFAK first. I have some trauma shears. These are Perseus Medical trauma shears. They're pretty decent. I'd say they're just as good as the North American Rescue. This is what they call an MFAK, so it's kind of a small, compact trauma kit. It's got a nasopharyngeal in there, some regular S-rolled gauze, so if you need gauze. I have a couple decompression needles in here. Unless you have a TCCC course under your belt or you're a paramedic, you really shouldn't be attempting to do anything with a decompression needle. But if there's an entry or an exit wound and there's air that gets into your lungs, you'd normally have a chest seal that you would apply over that. And then if air gets in there, it can cause tension pneumothorax. That's where the decompression needle comes in. But again, you need to be trained to use a decompression needle. So don't just try to wing it. Have training. This has a compact twin pack chest seal. You can use the wrapper as well if you have more than one wounded. One for entry, one for exit. So these hyphen chest seals actually have vents. I don't want to open one because this is most of the stuff is new. My winter kit doesn't get used for training. My winter kit only sits in the truck or wherever I might be for emergencies only. My summer kit, I have a training kit that's separate, but I think I have used some of the stuff from my summer kit before, although I try not to. I try to use my training kit for my training, so all my other gear is fresh. Anyway, I won't be able to zoom on this, but basically there are vents that come out in 3 or 4 sides on the chest seal to help air exit, but not let air back in. In a TCCC course, you would learn how to burp the wound so that maybe you don't need to use a decompression needle. This also comes with non-latex gloves. And of course, my favorite, the Gen 7 cat tourniquet. I say it every time I talk about a tourniquet. Please, please do not buy a tourniquet that looks like this, but is not a genuine cat from North American Rescue. There's other tourniquets like the Sam XT is good. Some people like the SWAT. There's a couple other versions that are decent. Some people don't like the Rats tourniquet, but I'm a fan. But my favorite is the Cat Gen 7. Nice strong windlass. A couple months ago, North American Rescue put it out on a blog that, because you're going to find on TikTok Shop and Amazon and a lot of other places, tourniquets that are, if you buy a genuine Gen 7 cat, you're going to pay, I think the minimum advertised pricing is like $33, $34, but you're going to pay anywhere from $33 to upwards of $39.95. If you're getting them for cheaper, like $4, $10, whatever it is, they're made in China. They've been known to break. And actually the government has the power now, if they see these in any type of customs and they're knockoff, if they're not the real thing, they can seize them. It's not legal to sell counterfeit medical gear. And the ones they make have the same red tab. They look almost exactly the same as the real deal. So, and again, they've been known to fail. Governments have actually had some and they have failed. Just look it up. You can read all about it on North American Rescue's website. They have a ton of information. They're very dangerous. The windlasses are cheaper. They can snap. The stitching's not correct. The material's inferior. And there's no quality control or testing. Last thing I have in this particular kit is an Israeli pressure dressing. So again, I believe this one's called the MFAK. Very small, very compact. You can put it on your belt if you wanted to. Typically, if I'm at the range, which I haven't been in a while, I would wear that on my belt. I have another Gen 7 cat tourniquet with a cover. The reason you want the cover, because sunlight can degrade the material over time. So you really want to keep them covered. So if it's not in your kit or on your belt, or especially if it's on your belt or on another pack that's out in the sun, make sure you have a cover. I also have another Gen 7 cat tourniquet on my belt at all times with a multi-tool, high-powered flash, high-lumen flashlight. and a bunch of other stuff I keep on me. This, we're not going to go through everything in this. This is basically what I would call a boo-boo kit, a first aid kit, normal first aid. It's got bandages. I even have some camp soap in here. I have some burn gel. This is basically the petroleum pad for burns. There's more gloves. There's some tape, all kinds of gauze. This is basically a regular first aid kit. And it's a regular first aid kit in a cheaper pouch. But I've had this pouch for over a decade, and it's nice. It's not bad. I think I paid $14 or $15 a long time ago. I don't even remember where I got it. It was so long. Welcome, Mr. Landfill. How you doing? Welcome, Heather. Heather, welcome back, I should say. You're here all the time, and welcome back to Mineral Water as well. All right, I gotta start finding places to toss this stuff so it doesn't clutter up this whole desk. Tomorrow's gonna suck when I have to put all this back. All right, let's see. We gotta make room. So one of the other things that is obviously extremely important in the winter is shelter. One of the things I carry, now I don't carry some of this stuff in the pack because I carry, and I didn't take it out of the truck because it's packed with snow and it's tied down, but I have an ice fishing sled that's about 3.5 feet long, maybe this wide. All this stuff fits in the ice fishing sled. I put a different handle on it, something I can, like a rope I can pull with. It's more of a bungee, but it works well. In that ice fishing sled, I'm able to carry everything, and I don't have to have it on my back because this pack alone in the winter weighs probably 35 pounds. I haven't weighed it since, it's been a couple years, but I think it was in the 30s. And you can be in really great shape and you can carry a lot of weight, that's fine, but why not pull it in a sled if you're able? So that's what I do in the winter most of the time. Welcome, Todd Elston from Spartanburg, South Carolina. Welcome, welcome. Another thing I have, and these are a little expensive. This is made by Tent Smiths. They hand make these in New Hampshire. They do a lot of old school canvas for all kinds of stuff. Tent Smiths is a really, really excellent quality company. This is treated canvas, so it's waterproof. I don't remember what I paid for this because it was probably back in 2019 or 2020. It was probably at least a couple $100. They also have oilskin tarps, which are lighter. They're definitely lighter than the canvas, and they hold up pretty well, but I'm a pretty big fan of the canvas. And the canvas has a lot of reinforced loops. It's got a reinforced section. I'm not going to take this out because it's huge. It's got a reinforced section in the middle as well if you want to put it up like a tent pole. Tent Smiths, I think, is one of the best companies that make these. And they hand make them all in their shop. I've been to their shop before. I think I have a picture somewhere on social media. They have a dog that's massive, or at least they did. This dog was so big, it was crazy. Anyway, so that's the Tent Smiths tarp. The oilskin, again, a little bit more expensive, and it usually comes in the dark brown. It's very nice. We used the oilskin in a couple of the films we did with Gray Bearded Green Beret, a couple of the instructional films. The other thing I carry, and some people ask why is it not clear, it's not completely blocked, but it's not totally clear either. This is for if I have to make a Morris Gahansky super shelter. With a super shelter, you're basically going to make whichever way you decide to make your shelter out of, you know, there's a really good film if you really want to look at the best way to make a Morris Gahansky super shelter in a couple different versions, and that's Winter Skills. That's taught by Gray Bearded Green Beret. We didn't produce that film, but it's on our website. I believe right now it's only available as online streaming. We don't have it as USB. So you can make just a standard type of shelter, or Morris Gahansky makes one where it's kind of like a half dome behind you and a raised bed on the floor with pine, you know, in there for your bedding. And what they do is they take one of those reflective blankets and they put it behind you. You put your canvas or your regular tarp over the back like you would a tent. You put the plastic in the front, and when you build a long fire in front, this plastic will let the heat in and it traps the heat in there. In the film, even though we didn't produce it, I was there for the 4 days or through whatever it was when it was filmed, And we had a thermometer outside and a thermometer inside, and it got up to, I think, 72 to 75 degrees in the shelter. It was really hot in there, and it was super cold outside. So the super shelter is pretty awesome. So I always carry some big, thick 6mm poly. You can use 3, but 6 is better. I don't know if I want to go through this whole thing, but this is my dry bag. This is a Snug Pack dry bag. They make plenty of dry bags. You can get dry bags from a lot of different places. But this is where I keep, well, you know what? I'm going to put this on the ground, on the floor, and then I'll show you guys individually. So this is the Rhino USA shovel. It's decent. This I have used before. It folds out, you tighten it up, and you can use it as a pick in the back, but I don't. This is really what I'm using if I have to dig a trench to use the bathroom or something to that effect. Or if I have to do something around the shelter, then you got to loosen it again, and it folds right back up. But it's very compact, and it's pretty decent. This thing, you can get it on Amazon. I think that's where I got it originally. There's like 12,000 good reviews on these. But there's a lot of different compact shovels you can get. You know, as long as they have good reviews and you know people, especially if you know people who've used them and tested them and can verify that they're good. So if you watch a lot of guys on YouTube that are out in the woods all the time and they're testing out gear, that's a good way to figure out what gear is decent, what gear might be crap. Pretty much all the gear that we sell on our website, which is thesurvivalsummit.com, has been used extensively by all kinds of different instructors that we've done films with since 2015. So we've been at it about 10 years. We don't put gear on there that hasn't been tested. We just don't do it. There's plenty of gear out there that you can find that's cheap. A lot of it sometimes is junk. And unfortunately, people seem to buy a lot of junk a lot of times, and it's unfortunate because in a real survival situation, some of the things people buy might not actually save them. Or it might not last long enough to save them more than a very short period of time. Next in here, now some people don't like synthetics, but this is 100% polypropylene. This is what I wear as my base layer. You can also wear wool. Some people don't like wool because it's scratchy, but you can get some really good wool these days. It's not really scratchy, and they both wick moisture. The wool's going to retain heat better, even when it's wet. But I like the 100% polypropylene because it wicks the sweat, and you should be putting, especially in the winter, you should have either wool or synthetic as your first base layer, and then you can put cotton over it. A wool overcoat is probably the best. But anyway, this is the top and the bottom of my 100% polypropylene. Some people don't like it because they don't think it's safe based on the plastics and how it's made. Maybe there's something to that, maybe there's not. I don't know. They say polypropylene is fairly safe, but still, it's not natural. I mean, if you're okay with wool, wool's probably even better. I don't usually use wool that much. This is just kind of like a regular canvas cloth that I can use to gather up kindling or gather up tinder and things like that. I have some wool socks in here. I have a baklava, you know, basically like a ski mask that covers your whole face. So if it's super cold outside, you don't want to be breathing in that super cold air, the baklava will help make a big difference. I have 2 different types of gloves in here. I have these mechanics. These are really heavy winter gloves, and these are pretty excellent. But I also have just some standard leather gloves if I'm doing something a little bit more rugged and I want a little bit of protection. I don't want to rip my good winter gloves. Some guys like to wear like beaver mittens because mittens are a lot warmer than regular gloves, so it's really your personal choice as to what you want to wear in the really cold weather. So one of the best things that I ever got, probably about 10 years ago, was this hunting suit. I believe I got this at Bass Pro Shop. This is one of the Scent Shield. It's basically a full hunting suit, but this suit is so incredibly warm. I could wear just what I'm wearing now with this hunting suit and go out in, 0-degree weather and I'd be fine. I've went out hunting in this before. I also have, I don't think I brought the boots in here because I was wearing them today because it's really cold in Vermont right now. But I have boots that are good for, you know, negative 40 degrees, and they are amazing. Overland Adventure. Hey, how's it going? From North Carolina. Oh, sorry. Northern California. Clearly I have a reading problem tonight. So anyway, this hunting suit is amazing for the really cold weather. And it's very comfortable. Extremely comfortable. So the last thing I have, I think it's... No, I have more socks, but I'm not going to pull those out because I don't think you care about my other pair of socks. This is a John Pack bed sleeve. The gentleman who originally made these, and I think is the one who designed them, I don't think he makes them anymore, but there's a guy from a company called Opossum Soft Goods. Pretty sure it's called Opossum Soft Goods. He's a really good guy. He makes a lot of custom canvas. They do all their own sewing. He has the rights to be able to make the John Pack bed sleeve. This is... It's going to be hard to show you because I don't have a lot of space here. But essentially it's got grommets on each end. So you can use this in a couple different ways. You can use this almost like a hammock, and you can sleep off the ground because in the cold you don't want to make contact with the ground because it's going to make you colder much faster. A lot of people die that way because they don't realize. Or you could use paracord, or I like number 36 twisted tar bank line, and you can tie the ends together, fill it with duff, you know, debris that's not all wet and nasty, even if you have to take it from the trees if the ground has snow cover. And then you could use this as a mattress. Just fill it with whatever, you know, clean, dry debris you can get, and you won't have to sleep on the ground. You can use it as a mattress. But it's a really, they're not treated because you don't want to, there's a reason why you don't want these in particular treated. You do want your tarps treated, but you don't want your bed sleeve treated. But these are amazing. I'm pretty sure the guy still makes them. And I'm pretty sure it's Opossum Soft Goods. Hopefully he's not watching and doesn't get annoyed if I called it the wrong name. I haven't talked to him in quite a while. So that's the John Pack bed sleeve. It's pretty awesome. And just in case, this is not a winter item, but this is kind of a cheaper Red Rock ghillie suit, but it's the full ghillie suit. It'll cover everything. It's got the rifle cover, the cover for your face, the whole body. It's really good if you need to get through a certain area and you don't want to be seen, or if you're doing a little bit of recon on somebody else's campsite, which you shouldn't be doing. I'm just saying, if you need to hide. So the pack. I have a couple things on the outside of the pack. This first one, I picked this up recently, actually. This is a TM9K Pro. This is a really compact Nikkor flashlight. There's a lot of other great brands of flashlights, by the way. Scott Lindholm, yes. All right, so I was right. It is Opossum Soft Goods. Possum Pouch Soft Goods. Gentleman has a white beard, I think longer than mine. He's a really, really nice guy. And he makes really good quality stuff. So you definitely should check that guy out because he's really good. I really like him a lot. So, the TM9K Pro, this is a 9900 lumen flashlight. But you can only use that 9900 lumens for, I think it's a few seconds. You basically press the button once, you get the light, then you press the secondary button halfway for 6000 lumens, then you press it again for the 9900 lumens. It's a really, really good flashlight. You can actually stun someone, it's so bright, if you had to defend yourself with one of these lights. But these lights, and I love this one because you can plug in right with a USB-C, so you can recharge it very easily. I think on this one the battery is actually built in, so you don't have to even swap them out. I also carry on me, because like I said, this is my winter bag. I don't use it for training, I only use it for emergencies. But I also keep this MH12, I think it's a GTS. Yeah, GTS. This is a 2000 lumen flashlight. And I have another one at home, which I think is the P20i. We sell them, but I don't think I have any of those in stock. I think I might have sold the last Nikkor regular flashlight. But the P20iX is a newer version of this, and it's about 4000 lumens. So it's a really handy light. The old school days of using flashlights with, you know, AA or AAA batteries, those days are over. The batteries nowadays, you don't have to buy the chargers for them anymore if you buy the flashlight that you can charge direct. And if you carry a power bank, especially a solar-powered power bank to recharge itself, you don't have to worry about powering your lights. And a light like this, on the lowest lumen setting, I believe it will last for 60 to 65 hours. somewhere between 40 and 60. I'd have to look it up to be sure. But I like Nikkor. There's a lot of other great brands out there. Phoenix is a good brand. I'm not going to try to pick favorites when it comes to lights. You guys get whatever light, you know, that has verified reviews and that people have tested and done a lot of work with, and figure out for yourself which light is the one you want. So next up, I have the Holtzbruck. Some people like Council tool axes. They're not bad. Holtzbruck axes, I believe, are made in Sweden still, and they come with a nice leather sheath, and they're very, very, this is a hatchet. They call it the Almike axe, but it's technically a hatchet. I have a bigger, telemarketers just keep calling, just nonstop. That's why I keep my ringer off during the streams. This axe, I love this axe. This axe, damn it. This axe is amazing. I have a bigger version. I don't remember what it's called, but it's almost twice the size of this, but I don't keep it in my pack normally. And I typically only keep an axe in the winter. I don't usually have an axe in the summertime. I don't use it in the winter because obviously it'll freeze, but it happens to fit this Rush. This is a Rush 72 backpack, by the way. It's not the 2.0, I don't think. This is the older one. I've had this for a while. But the Rush 72 is a pretty nice pack. So is the Rush 24, the Rush 12. If you want more of a covert bag, the Covert 18 is pretty good. But there's so many backpacks out there. So many good manufacturers of backpacks that you can really get some decent quality backpacks for really not that much money. You don't have to go super pricey, but don't go too cheap. Make sure it's got, you know, quality material. So I keep this, which again, I don't know why it's in here in the winter, but it's a Camelback bladder. I believe it's a 3-liter. So this one doesn't fit as well in my smaller pack, the Rush 12, which is what I would normally have as like a training bag. And sometimes I swap between the Swallen that I showed in the beginning and the Rush 12, because the Rush 12 is, you know, a third of the size of this bag, and I don't need as much stuff in it when it's summertime. Some people don't, for whatever reason, they don't like Camelback bladders. They say they leak. I've never had one leak, never had an issue, but some people have. All right, I gotta start strategically unsnapping. This thing is packed so tight. I also have some, you know, random carabiners throughout. I have a whole stack of them to my left as well, just in case I need them for other things. So one of my favorite pieces of kit. Oh, speaking of the ice fishing sled that I carry all this stuff in, these are straps that I use to help strap stuff down tighter on top of the sled, just so nothing's kicking around. You can also use a net. There's all kinds of ways you can do it, just to keep stuff from falling out, because if it's really heavy, fluffy snow and you drop something out of the back of the sled, you might not hear it because it's not going to make a sound. It's just going to dip itself into the snow. All right, this bag's so big, I got to get the hell out of the way. This is one of my favorite water filters. This is the Grail GeoPress. Now again, with these filters and with any membrane filter, if you use it and it's wet, you don't want it to freeze. So use this as a backup or when it's not freezing weather and you don't have to worry about it. But the Grail GeoPress filters bacteria and viruses. You can also use it as just a standard water bottle if you had to. Pathfinder came out. Now we do sell these, but we don't sell this because I don't think they sell it wholesale right now. I think you have to get it through Grail directly. But it's a nesting cup that the Grail fits directly in. This is a single wall stainless steel. This is, I think, a 30 or a 32 ounce cup, but it's single wall, so you can boil it. You don't want to boil insulated bottles because those can explode. Single wall stainless steel. It's relatively cheap. Some people like titanium. I'm not sure it's worth the extra money for the barely saving any weight with the titanium. Some people like titanium, think maybe it lasts longer. I've never had a problem with the stainless, but in the winter, boiling water is usually the way to go. It's the easiest. Don't boil snow because the ratio of snow to water, if I filled this cup with snow, this is like 7 inches, I would get less than an inch of water. But if I put ice in here and I melted ice and I boiled it, the ratio is the same as if I filled it with water. So don't use snow. Melt ice if you have to. All right, let's go to the other side pocket. I also have another. This is the Pathfinder bottle and cup set, the 32 ounce wide mouth. It's pretty nice. You can boil water in that. You can boil water in this. They nest together. There's a cover in here somewhere. I think it's in the bottom of the pack. So if you need to boil water, you can use that. Welcome, Lone Star Civilian. Welcome to the stream. So when it comes to knives, there's a lot of people that have favorites. My favorite happens to be the Mora Garberg Carbon Black with the leather sheath. I don't like the Kydex sheaths because they can break, they can crack. I just don't like them as much. I like the leather sheath. I just think it's better. This bag, Lone Star, is the Rush 72 by 511. Just happens to be one that I like. There's a lot of great bags out there. All right, so I said I don't use most of the stuff in this because it's my emergency winter bag, and it's not my training bag, but clearly I've used this knife because there's some scuffs on it. One of these days, you got to remind me. I got to show you my training bag, because the reason I keep separate bags for the seasons, obviously, is because of supplemental gear, and the reason I don't train with my Bugout bags is because I want to keep everything perfectly sharp. Like my saw, I want to be crisp. I don't want to have to worry about anything being dull. I just don't want to have any worries. So if you don't have the budget to have a bag you just use for training or when you're going out screwing around, you can get some cheaper stuff if you want to do that. There's a lot cheaper gear that you can use just to kind of mess around with. So anyway, this is the Mora Garberg Carbon Black. You don't have to get the Carbon Black. They have a regular one that has a regular blade, but I love this knife. It's amazing. It's got a Scandi grind. It's perfect for bushcraft tasks, great for survival tasks. It's a really quality knife. The other one I have is a Perseverance survival knife in my summer bag that was made for Perseverance Survival. It was made by Tops Knives. Unfortunately, they only made one run of that knife, and they don't have any more left. Those sold out probably 7 years ago, and the guy never brought them back. I'm really not sure why. I wish he would, because it's a really nice knife. So that's the Mora Garberg. They have the Mora Bushcraft Black you can get as well. I think we sell both of those on our website. All right, maybe I'll go to the top pouch next. I believe my compass is in there. Nope, must be in the other pouch. I lied to you. I'm just going to take some stuff out, and then we can talk about what it is. I was right. My compass is in there. So the first thing I'll show you guys, the ferro rods. And we sell these ferro rods. Most of the stuff we sell on our website. We even have a build your own Bugout Bag product on our site. So these are made by Uberleben. These are the Craftig rods. And for those of you who are new to ferro rods, I lied because I've used this one before too. When you see the black coating, you have to scrape that coating off first. That's a protective coating. You want it to look like this. You want the silver. If you try to get a spark with the black coating, it's not going to work very well. So these Craftig ferro rods by Uberleben, in my opinion, I did find one that was really awesome, and I can't remember the brand, but these are a really, really good mixture of soft, but not too soft, and hard, but not too hard. Which, believe it or not, if you buy cheap ferro rods, they don't really throw as hot of sparks. They don't throw as many sparks. They're just not as good. I don't know where these guys get these made, but I wish I did, because I'd make my own and put my own brand on it, because they're amazing. This is the 8-inch. I like the 8-inch because you get better dexterity with big gloves. The 5-inch, this is the other version. They have a hexa that has some flat, you know, like a hexagon, where it's flat on each side. I've tried it. I don't really find that it's better. I think the philosophy was that you could scrape and get more surface, but I don't actually find that to be true. Or maybe I'm just terrible with a ferro rod. I just don't think it's accurate. Still a nice rod, but... So I also have one of these SOL. This is an emergency blanket. This is what I would use in the Morris Gahansky Super Shelter if I needed to, with the reflective, so I could reflect the heat from the fire back onto me. Put it behind you, whichever shelter you decide to build. You can use this to reflect the heat from the fire, and you can also use it as a standalone blanket to reflect your own body heat back to yourself. I'm already running out of room, and I got a lot of stuff. This is also by Uberleben. They call it the Tindar wick. Kind of like Tinder, but Tindar with an A. This is treated rope. I think it's hemp, actually. I think it's treated hemp. So this will stay lit for about an hour. So instead of wasting matches or wasting lighter fluid, you just light this. You'll have a good flame, and when you want to put it out, you just slide this up over like that, and it puts it right out. But this is kind of like a way of extending your matches without having to use a candle and extend it that way. I really like these a lot, and they come, I don't know what the hell I did with the tin, but it comes in a nice tin that you can also make char cloth in the tin if you run out of other types of tinder that you happen to have. And I do have a video, I think I have a video somewhere showing you guys how to make char cloth, but there's a lot of other guys that are much better at showing you guys that. I'm not an instructor. I would never claim to be. I'm barely even 1% of a guy like Graybeard Green Beret or EJ Snyder, or guys that have been doing this, you know, for such a long time that are amazing instructors. Mineral water. So the link to buy the ferro rods, the link, if you go to the link in my bio, which is on any of the platforms, it should say like highpage.survival or whatever it says. It's the main link in our bio. That link will take you to the website, and then just hit gear, and you can scroll down and look at all the fire products. Jute, I'd have to look it up. I thought it was hemp, but it could be treated jute. I think it might be hemp, but I almost want to look now, but I don't want to slow down the video either. All right, let's see. Next, I have these stormproof matches. These are made by Yuko. I have in my laptop bag, I've showed it on a different stream, the Titan stormproof matches are a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier. But these matches, you can light them. The wind will not put them out. And I've done videos where you can put a stormproof match lit in water, and it'll keep burning in the water. When you pull it out, you get the flame back. These stormproof matches are absolutely amazing. If you don't have stormproof matches, you got to get some. And I sell these on the website too. But you don't have to get them from me. You can get them from Amazon, get them from wherever you want. But we do have free shipping. So if you get stuff from us, you get free shipping. And if you become a subscriber to get access to all of our instructional films, which is almost 40 hours, and then a bunch of old webinars, I think it's $19.95 a month to get access to all of our instructional films. But you also get an automatic 15% off everything on the website if you're a subscriber on our website. But stormproof matches, wherever you get them, they're awesome. I am trying to get an account with Industrial Revolution because I want to carry the Titan survival matches, and I don't carry those, and I really want to. They come in a really nice case. That laptop bag is actually somewhere around here, but it's probably buried, or I'd show you those Titan matches. But I definitely have them somewhere around. This is another one of my, this is a backup GPS. This is, I think it's the Fortrex, Garmin Fortrex. This does take regular batteries, but it's basically a wrist-worn GPS that you can make waypoints on, so if you want to set up camp. But I also have in my electronics kit, which is also in the truck, but I don't have it in here for this video, I also keep a Garmin 64 ST, which is a handheld GPS. But more than handheld GPSs and electronics, electronics can fail, so you really should learn as much as you can about land navigation. So you should have topo maps of whatever area you're going to be in, or topo maps to get to your alternate or your contingency locations if you have a legitimate pace plan. This is a really nice Sun2 MC2 compass. We do have a video also, so if you sign up to be a subscriber on our website for the Elite subscriptions, we call it. Somebody got mad about us calling it Elite once. I'm not really sure why. People just try to change the meanings of words over time. But it has nothing to do with politics. Just call Elite because it's awesome. But we do have a survival land navigation video that teaches you all about land navigation, how to use compasses, all kinds of crazy stuff when it comes to land nav. I also have some pace beads. These are also for land navigation. So let's say I walk, if I want to do it every 100 yards or 100 meters, every time I do that, I pull a bead from one side, and when I got to 1,000, I pull a bead from the top. There's plenty of land nav instructors that can really teach you how to use pace beads effectively. They're pretty easy. Same with compasses. So this is another Uberleben product. This is a necklace, and I like this necklace a lot because it has you're not going to choke yourself out if you get caught up on a branch, because it has the back will come out if it gets too much pressure. But it has a little ferro rod, tiny ferro rod, and a really, really nice sharp striker on the end. And I believe I think I sell these too. I'm pretty sure I do. If not, you can get them from Uberlebe and Direct. Again, these streams aren't to try to sell you guys stuff on my website, because I always say it, get it wherever you want, get it where you find the best deal. I think currently, with the 15% off being a subscriber, if you spend a certain amount of money in gear, it basically covers the cost of your monthly membership, and you get access to watch all the instructional films. Pretty cool. All right. I really love to strategically place this stuff so I can easily put it away next time, but I don't think that's going to happen. So this is a Princeton Tech flashlight. This is a headlamp. This is called the Viz Tactical. This you can get regular flashlight, or you can get red light. So if you're trying not to be seen, or you're, for whatever reason, you may need more of a less visible tactical light, but you still need to see. This one's really nice. They sell a standard Viz headlamp, but it doesn't have the different colors. This one is really handy. Graybeard Green Beret is the one who first told me about these. He said he had one when he was overseas, and he used it, and he beat the crap out of it, and they lasted forever, and he really loved them. And I've become a big fan. I also have some Nikkor headlamps that I really like, because I'm big into the solar-powered recharging of batteries, and some of the headlamps I have are the 18650 batteries, so they're a lot easier, and they last longer. But I still keep the Viz, because I'm still a fan of the Viz. All right. Let's get into this pouch. This pouch has got a ton of stuff in it. I've been looking for the rest of my snares, because this is a Thompson snare. I think the company that makes the Thompson snare, they don't make them anymore, and I can't remember the name of the company that basically took over the brand of Thompson. So they're still technically making these Thompson snares, but it's sold under the umbrella of a different company, and I can't for the life of me remember what the company is. And I have a bunch of these, because when it comes to snaring, you don't just want to have one and put out one. You want to be able to put out, you know, half a dozen to a dozen, because maybe if you're lucky, you're going to catch one. But I also have snare wire in here too. But the Thompson snares are pretty awesome, so if you ever check them out, just look up Thompson TH. I have a shemagh. Not something I wear around my head, but this is something you could do like passive snow melting with. You can use this to get the particulates out of your water if you're going to put them into your filter, or you don't want to have to build like a sand filter, so, you know, sand rock, blah blah blah, to make it a little cleaner before you boil it. You can use a shemagh just to kind of keep some of the dirt out. You can make a sling with it. There's a ton of different uses for a shemagh, a ton. Even, so EJ Snyder was telling a story once, when he was overseas, they'd take a shemagh, they'd wet it down, and they'd wrap it around their water bottles. And the physics of it, with the wet shemagh wrapped around the water bottle, it actually cools the water in the water bottle. I think we talked about that in the podcast I did with EJ a year or two ago, which is still available on Spotify. I'm pretty sure we talked about it at that time. I could be wrong. I don't know. I have a bad memory. I also keep a SAM splint in here. This is for mechanical injuries, so if you need to put a splint on an arm or a leg, these fold out. I have a couple in I have another trauma kit in the truck that I keep for, you know, bigger, if you happen to roll up on a car accident. I have another trauma kit with a lot more trauma gear in it. But I like to keep a SAM splint, because I don't want to have to make my own with sticks and tape and all that crap. I'd rather have a real splint. Yes, you can do a lot of things. You can make a tourniquet with a piece of t-shirt and a stick and use it as a windlass, but why would you if you have a Gen 7 Cat or SAM XT or another good quality tourniquet that you know for sure will save your life, instead of trying to do it primitive? You should have the skills to do things primitive. You should have bushcraft skills, you should have primitive skills, but you're still going to want to use gear, especially in a survival situation. You don't want to be trying to carve a bow drill set to make a fire when you could have had a lighter in your pocket. And as your alternate, you could have had a ferro rod. And as your contingency, you could have had stormproof matches. Although stormproof matches are probably alternate, ferro rod's probably contingency. You'll learn a lot more about that when my book comes out, called Pace Planning, Your Guide to Emergency Preparedness and Bug-Out Strategies. That book, I think, will be available on Amazon next Tuesday, as long as it goes to print by the end of this week, which it should, fingers crossed. It's about 270 pages, about 38 chapters. It's basically the framework for pace planning for everything. The core four, fire, water, shelter, food, goes into land nav, signaling, pretty much gives you the framework for PACE, which is primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. It gives you the framework for that in all different regards to not just bug out, bugging in, bugging out, basically everything preparedness. It talks about medical conditions. It talks about families with kids. It goes over a lot of stuff that you don't typically see. And I've never seen a book on PACE planning. And one of the best guys who's a super expert with PACE planning that I pretty much learned everything I know about it was Joshua Anyart, Gray Bearded Green Beret. The man is one of the best instructors on the planet. And that part of working with him for those years gave me the inspiration to come out with that book. So I haven't seen one that's anything similar to it. I might be the first one to specifically put out a book on PACE planning. Maybe it won't sell because people will be like, what the hell is PACE planning? So I guess I'll have to do some advertising where it explains it well and people will understand. I mentioned topo maps. I haven't, so here in northern Vermont, I haven't printed one yet for this area, and I'm slacking. Should punch myself in the face for not doing it because I'm telling you guys you should do it and I still haven't done it. I have some for some other areas, but I need to do one here. mytopo.com is one of the best places to print out topo maps. You can even get them printed waterproof. But I have some regular street maps. I have one for New England, Vermont, New Hampshire, basically en routes to my alternate contingency location as well as my primary. These are just some stakes, like tent stakes, kind of cheaper tent stakes, but they still work. You can make your own tent stakes out of sticks with a good knife, like the Mora Garberg, or whatever knife is your preferred knife. So this is a Silky. This is a Silky Gomboy. This is not the Outback version that I have on my summer kit. The Outback version is pretty awesome. So with this, with the Silky saws, there are some that you can resharpen the teeth. These blades last a really long time. It cuts wood like butter. They're really awesome. The Silky, yeah, I've used this one too. Not very much though. Not as much as I used the other one on my summer bag. And I'm not supposed to. I vowed at one point a few years back to only use my training stuff from my regular training gear. And I've been breaking that every once in a while. So this is the Gomboy. It's got 240 tooth setup. These you cannot sharpen, but again, it'll last you a long time. But as a backup, I keep a 240 and a 210. So a couple different blades that are replacements because you can replace the blades on these very easily. And I'm telling you, I have never used a saw that is as good as the Silky saw. It is amazing. Really amazing. Some people like to carry a buck saw in the winter. I have a couple of them, but I don't carry them with me. You can fold them down and break them down, and they're actually really handy. You would think I would stop doing this wrong, pack this right. The buck saw is kind of big, even if you fold it down, but it's really nice, especially if you have to put away big lumber in the winter. A buck saw is very, very handy. This is just one of those quick drying kind of camp cloths, like a towel. I have some DEET in here. Why I have DEET in here in the winter, I don't know. I don't need it. There's no mosquitoes when it's 0 degrees, so I don't need DEET in here. Might have been a holdover from another kit. Next up, never hurts to have some trash bags. These are some actually I don't think these are contractor bags. These don't feel like 6 mil, they feel like 3 mil. But anyway, trash bags are good for a lot of different reasons. You never know when you might need a good trash bag or some plastic. Here's the cover for the bottle and cup set I mentioned earlier. Here's the tin. I know why. I know why this tin doesn't have the Tindar wick in it, because I use this for fat wood. It's drying out a little bit. Usually I have these double packed in cellophane and use basically like one of those heat guns to wrap them. But this fat wood is starting to dry out. It'll still light. Fat wood is basically pine soaked resin that you can find in the forest from down pine trees. The pine sap will work its way into the trunk of the tree. It'll work its way into where the branches meet the trunk. Fat wood is amazing. Some people call it lighter knot, lighter pine. Call it whatever you want. It's amazing stuff. Takes a fire really easily. Sometimes this will actually light a little easier with a spark because it's dry, but I don't really want it dry. I want it to still have some of that resin that hasn't completely dried out. Next up, I have just a regular water straw. It's made by Practical Survival. We don't sell these on the website, but we do have a link to their Amazon link if you want to get these straws. You can get a 2-pack, I think, for $30, 30 something. Might be 36. And then you can get a 5-pack for like 59. It's a hell of a deal. Again, be careful, don't let the membranes freeze if they're wet. You can put the lanyard around your neck, stick it under your shirt against your skin, and it won't freeze. Because there's a lot of times where if you're on the move and you really need water quickly, you're not going to want to sit there and boil it for a few minutes, or at least get it to a rolling boil for a minute. You're not going to want to do that. You may want to use a filter, but in the winter, make sure you protect these from freezing. Some companies do testing, and they say that they can go through a freeze-thaw cycle once or twice, but if that membrane cracks, you may never know it until you get sick because maybe you had some bad water, and you had no idea that your membrane was cracked. So I like to carry a filter. I think that's it. Oh, no, I lied. More stuff in this pouch. This is spider wire, I believe. Yeah, spider wire for fishing. I have a pocket signaling kit. This basically comes with reflective tacks, a bunch of different reflective items for signaling if I need to be found. It also has a whistle. It has some chalk if I need to write on rocks and things. I have one of the yo-yo fishing lines. Thought I had more, but I think I only have the one. These are really good for passive fishing. Set it up, set the hook on it, just let it sit while you're doing normal fishing. If you set up a bunch of these, you have a better chance of catching fish without having to man a bunch of different poles. Or you can set up, you know, like a jig line. I have another filter. Oh, the filter itself, I believe, is in one of my pots in the middle of the bag because I like to fill that to save on space. But this is the plunger to do back flushing of the filters. You can use this plunger also to back flush this filter with clean water. If you're going to back flush a filter, don't use dirty water. Boil it, let it cool, and then back flush from where you drink out the other way, and it gets the particulates and makes your filter last longer. See, now I'm curious. Will this new filter fit on the Sawyer bag? This is the bag for the Sawyer Mini. It does. I believe these are both 28 millimeters. So you can technically use a Sawyer bag with this. You can also use a water bottle, but they don't all fit perfect, but they will fit enough where you can still use it to drink, and it's not going to come off. I mean, you got to hold it, but some bottles they fit amazing, and some of the cheaper bottles they don't fit as well. But it's pretty handy. All right, let's see what else I got in here. I got this from EJ. It's a knife sharpener and a whistle and a little compass. I just put it in there because he gave it to me. I probably wouldn't really use it very much for anything because I have a different sharpening system I use. All right, a few more items in that pouch. This one, flint and steel. So if you have, you know, chert rock or flint rock, especially if you're in like, well, you can find flint rock almost anywhere. And I don't know where the flint rock that I had in here is, but there's plenty of it around here. Flint rock is, it takes a lot of technique to do it, but you basically take this, you take your rock, and you get sparks. And normally, you're not going to be able to light just, you know, even if you made a bird's nest, it's going to be very difficult to light a fire with flint and steel. What you want for that is char cloth. So char cloth, this is vacuum sealed char cloth. Char cloth will take a very, very small spark, and it will look like the coal at the end of like when you get done with your bow drill and you're transferring your coal into your tinder bundle. You can make one of those coals with char cloth and a spark from a ferro rod or a spark from flint and steel very easily. And the cool thing about that, and I don't remember where I got this, I don't think the company even exists anymore, but in the kit it came with a whole bunch of layers of 100% cotton. That's what you want to use to make char cloth. What you do is you put the char cloth in the tin, you close it. Some people drill a hole. I don't think you have to. There's little tabs here, so there is an air gap. You can still drill a tiny hole if you want to. Put it on the fire. Let it sit on the fire until it stops smoking. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You could leave it on. It doesn't matter. When you take it off the fire, obviously wear gloves, or use a tong. Don't take it off with your hands. Shouldn't have to say that, but you never know. When you take it off, don't open it right away, because if you introduce air to this too fast, it'll just catch on fire and you just ruined your char cloth. Take it off the fire, let it cool down 15, 20 minutes. When you open it, it'll look like regular char cloth. Char cloth is an amazing tinder to use, especially when you can just use a spark. And even if you have extra clothes that are 100% cotton, you can make char cloth out of that. You can make char cloth out of jeans. It's a really easily producible tinder, basically. And it's a nice fine tinder, again, that a spark you'll be able to make a nice coal with a spark, which you can't say that for every tinder that's out there. It's not that easy, especially in bad weather. This is my favorite stove, little pocket stove. This is made by Uberleben. I also sell this on the website. But again, you will save 15%, but don't go sign up to be a subscriber and you'll get access to all of our films as online streaming, but don't buy gear at the same time. You got to sign up to be a subscriber first, and then when you go back in, it'll give you that automatic 15% off discount on everything. So just remember that. This is a waxed canvas case that Uberleben put their stove in, and it's really awesome. Waxed canvas is amazing, amazing. A lot of haversacks are made with this, and it's just really nice. All right, I lied. I also used this stove before, but not much. It's got a little bit of char on it. This basically just sits, I'm not gonna put it together, but it sits here, it has the base. You would feed you could put your smaller tinder in, get the fire going, and then you can take a log without even having to waste an axe or a saw to cut. You can put a log, as long as it fits in this hole, you can just keep feeding it. And as it burns down, just feed it in further. That way you can just keep a bigger stick way out here and just keep feeding it in, so you don't have to constantly cut. You'll save calories not having to cut. You'll get a more condensed fire, so you get a little bit better heat. It's really good for cooking. I've made plenty of fires with my son where we're cooking with pans and stuff outside, and typical circle fire, waiting for some good coals, that's a waste. It's a waste of wood. I mean, unless you're really doing it because you want to get warm, but it's a waste of wood because you can make really small, you could even put leaves and a bunch of crap in here, and you're going to get a much hotter, more concentrated fire, and you're going to use much less material if you need to cook something. So instead of doing it on a big fire and wasting wood that you may want to use at another time, these little stoves are pretty amazing. All right, I think that's it for this pouch. And I believe we're into the main kit now. I still have some shelter items that are in the top of this main kit. See, I didn't think I'd get through this whole bag today, but looks like we're going to. First item up, Snugpak SF Bivy. The SF Bivy is, we don't sell these, I don't think. They're a little bit more expensive than the regular Snugpak Bivy, but because they have a zip, so it's easier to get in and out. The regular one doesn't have that. These are a little bit better. That is the Snugpak SF Bivy. They also have a whole sleep system, but it's very expensive. All right, so up next, I have two ponchos. Why do I have two ponchos? Well, you remember the old school military ponchos? You can still get them on eBay, but sometimes the material has broken down and they stink. I have a whole box and they're horrendous. They smell really, really bad. But the old school military ponchos were the only ponchos that had button snaps, so that you could take two ponchos, snap them together, fold the hood inside out, and then use them as an actual tent. Well, Helicon is one of the companies. They're out of Poland. They're a little bit, if they're out of stock, they're a little harder to get. I think Miltech is the one I settled on for our website, so we sell the Miltech. Helicon are just as good. These two brands, as far as I know, I've never been able to find another poncho that has the correct snaps where you can snap them together and make a shelter, except for Miltech and Helicon. And Miltech's a little bit cheaper, so I like to have two. You can just wear one if you need a poncho for the rain, or you can use two if you need to make a hasty shelter. But I love them. I love the ponchos. They're amazing. I also have this Arcturus. This is essentially a survival blanket. This has reflective material on the inside, and it's kind of like a dome. It's almost like a little tent. It's not super high quality material, but in a pinch, this isn't bad. So I like to keep this. I like to keep extra stuff. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Everybody says that, but in the winter, if I'm pulling stuff in a sled, or if most of the time it's in the vehicle, I'll have some extra stuff, especially for the winter, because I really want to make sure that I don't have any issues. Yes, could I build a primitive shelter? I could. But what if I get stranded and I have to build it and it's freezing cold? I have to put on all the winter gear, then I have to take the time, expend the calories, start sweating. Why? Why would I do that unless I had no choice? I wouldn't. I'd use gear, normal gear, unless I had to. I still want to train, to be able to build that stuff, still want to train to be able to build a bow drill, but that should be the E in my pace plan, the emergency. It shouldn't be the primary, it shouldn't be the alternate, it shouldn't be the contingency, it should be the emergency. Just like bugging out. Going to live in the woods if you're bugging out, that literally should be the last thing on your mind. Really the last thing. All right, let's see, I'll go through this first. So this is a wool blanket. Who makes this one? This is a little bit of a cheaper one. Rothko, I believe, makes this. The tag's a little funky. This is 90% wool. I usually like to have 100% wool. But I think I have a couple old school Pendleton blankets that are in my other truck, my non-work truck. But this wool blanket is still pretty handy, and it's still fairly cheap. I don't think I have a link, but if you do, there's Practical Survival on their TikTok shop actually sells a 70% wool blanket, and they're getting a 100% wool blanket. It's lightweight, it's cheap, it's like 40 bucks. But it's really good. Even though it's only 70% wool, I think it's still a good deal. But there's a lot of stuff. You could go on eBay and you could get a good deal on some of the older 100% wool blankets, and they're pretty cheap. And I believe Opossum Soft Goods, I don't know if he did a run this year or not. I haven't looked, but sometimes he does a run where he has really, really, really nice quality 100% wool blankets, and they're really awesome. They're not cheap. I think they're a couple $100, or they might even be $250, but they're really, really nice. I also have a Whoopee, or poncho liner, whichever you want to call it. This is kind of more of like a comfort thing. This typically I'd have this like in the summer or the spring. But I like it in the winter too, because I don't really like the feel of a lot of different materials. So if I have this, I'm going to have this kind of on me first, because I like how soft it is. I don't know. I'm a baby. What do you want? I just like it. I like it a lot. All right. So in my truck, I have a bunch of SOS emergency rations, which is my choice. There's a lot of, obviously, if your pace plan, if you want long-term food storage, you want, 25-year shelf life, freeze-dried foods from a company like My Patriot Supply, who I just became an affiliate with. I haven't really done anything with it yet, but there is a link in my bio to all My Patriot Supply's long-term food storage. I think based on calories versus dollars, they seem to be one of the best companies. I hear 4 Patriots is also good. But when it comes to calories and the cost and the quality, everything I've read so far is that those guys are one of the best. Not that you shouldn't get it from other places, like Mountain House makes some really good number 10 cans. Some of those taste pretty good too. Even Wise Food Storage, they sell some good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff out there. So don't just go on My Patriot Supply and use my link and all that. Check it out. Do your own research. Get some samples. Test them out. Make sure you like the way it tastes. Yes, it's survival food. It's not supposed to taste good, but in a long-term situation, that comfort of having food that actually doesn't taste like crap is going to be better for your mental space. But for getting your ass home, I like the SOS. These are the SOS emergency rations. They have a 5-year shelf life. I'm not a fan of the MREs. I like them. I actually think they taste good. I'm weird like that. But I don't like them. I just don't like them for survival. I don't know why. I just have a thing against them. The SOS, they don't really taste like much, but these can freeze. They can get super hot, and they're going to be fine. This is 3,600 calories. I have a crap load in the truck, but calories, again, I said it in one of the videos before, and I think I have it on a short on social. They say you can live 3 to 6 weeks or whatever without food, but I'm telling you, if you're doing a lot of activity, you're expending calories, you're going to be weak, you're probably going to get sick, you're going to feel like crap. You need food, you need electrolytes, even if you're drinking plenty of water. Food is very, very important, especially if you're trying to get home or you're trying to get from A to B or B to C, your primary, your contingency, whatever the case may be, you want food. And these emergency SOS rations are relatively cheap. Just cycle them every 5 years, because after 5 years, they're not good. I haven't tried to eat one after 5 years because they're not that expensive. I just buy a whole case. every 5 years, and that's it. Or if I need to put more in a different vehicle, I have a Toyota Tundra that has like hidden compartments under the back seats, and I keep them lined with the food, some filters, a bigger silky saw, much bigger silky saw, and a bunch of other gear. Essentially, so when the book comes out, if you weren't here before, the book that I have coming out, I believe next Tuesday, it'll be available on Amazon, and then eventually I'll have it on my website. And I might even sell it on the TikTok shop. But it's a book about pace planning for everything emergency preparedness, and it kind of goes over everything. Your primaries, your alternates, your contingencies, and your emergencies in every category. Just to kind of set up, because no one's pace plan is going to be the same. Everyone's pace plan is going to be different. Based on your circumstances, your training, your family, your location, the event that happened. There's just, if anyone tells you there's a one-size-fits-all, they're full of shit. Now, there's a one-size-fits-all when it comes to the core 4, shelter, fire, water, food. That's standard for every human being, that you need to have these things to survive. Nick says, get all your dental, medical issues sorted before. Yes, so speaking of that, we've never really done anything with affiliates up until recently, because we're never going to carry freeze-dried food. We're never going to carry, prescriptions. And there's other things that we do. A couple things on TikTok. We push a couple filters because I really like the company and I know the guy personally. So I push people away from my website sometimes to push other people's stuff. So I figured, why don't I get a commission out of that if I'm going to do that? Well, what's the difference really? And people that know us know that the first 7 years out of the 10 years we existed, we pushed products, and we didn't even sell products. We didn't have anything to do with any type of affiliate deals. We just told people what our instructors thought was the best gear. And then once we started doing a couple small affiliate things, some people were like, what are you doing? We're like, what do you mean? We're not doing this just to make money. We figure if we're doing it anyway, why not make a little money? That's why we started selling gear, and it took 7 years for us to even really start selling gear. Yeah, so the reason why I said that based on Nick's comment was because I just got a deal going with Jace Medical, who's available in the United States and Canada, where you can get basically off-grid prescriptions like antibiotics. They even have ivermectin. You can get a lot of that stuff. I do have a link for that, but I haven't put it up yet because I'm waiting for the kit that I ordered to come in, and I want to do a video talking about the kit. So at some point there'll be a stream where I talk about that, and I might even bring on one of the main people from Jace to answer questions. Have her in the stream and talk about a lot of different stuff, and if people have questions. Nick says farm supply stores sell over-the-counter animal antibiotics, which can be used by humans. Do your research, but in my opinion, that is accurate. I've looked into that before. I'm not telling you should do it because that's medical advice, and I'm never going to give you medical advice. Talk to your doctor first. Just got to cover myself just in case. So this is the bush pot. This is a Pathfinder bush pot. It nests into the stove portion, so you can use it with that. And I like to save space in the bag, so I keep a lot of random crap in here. So this is like a kind of a crappy, old school, cheap whistle, and it's got a really crappy compass that I would never even attempt to use, but I like it because I can put matches in here, stormproof matches in here, and it's waterproof, so I just keep it in here just for the hell of it. It's not that great of an item though. More insect repellent that again I don't need. Nick says sniper, counter sniper manual, ranger manual, small unit tactics. Yeah, I mean, if you guys go back and watch my video where I talked about keeping, I have thousands of survival manuals on USB thumb drives, and I have a backup cell phone and a backup iPad, all in Faraday bags with solar-powered power banks, so I can power all that stuff if something crazy to happen, like if the grid went down. So I don't have to have all these books. I have everything. It's easier to read on an iPad, but you can still go through the PDFs on a phone. I have the adapters, so go back and find that video where I talk about how to set all that stuff up. It's really, really handy. I may do it again. I may do that video again at some point. But that's how I like to store. I still have books, and I think this weekend when I'm home, I'm going to do a stream where I show you guys my favorite books as well. I did that before on TikTok, but I haven't done it here on YouTube X or Facebook in the simulcast. But I will do that. I'll show you guys all the stuff that I really like for books. But again, I have probably 2,000 plus survival manuals, probably every military manual that's ever existed, to Nick's point, sniper, counter sniper, intelligence, counterintelligence, farming, homestead, everything. I have thousands of them. And they're all on USB thumb drives, and I have multiple backups to the thumb drives. All right, so I guess I should just start dropping stuff on the floor, huh? This is a cravat, basically another medical bandage. You can make a sling out of this. Oh, so I did say it was in here, and I was correct. The Sawyer Mini is in there. Another filter. This is jute cord. You can make a bird's nest out of jute. Doesn't take very much. You could take this much jute and take it all apart nice and slow, fluff it up, and make a bird's nest, and it's much finer tinder, so I like to keep jute in here. This is the straw for the Sawyer Mini. I keep a little bit of Lotrimin foot powder, which was a mistake because it is frozen now. Hard as a rock. So it's basically, it's useless now in the winter. Another cravat, another emergency bandage. Here's the actual plunger for the Sawyer. I think the other plunger was for the Practical Survival filter. I have a lighter. I have another lighter, back up to the backup. I also have a lighter in my pocket, and the lighter in my pocket I keep in the Exotac waterproof case because it keeps it from getting depressed in my pocket. Getting it depressed so you lose fluid, you don't want that to happen, and it keeps it so if it gets wet, it's not going to ruin the lighter. Those are amazing. For whatever reason, I don't sell those. I don't know why. I think I used to. I'm not sure what happened. But I would definitely check them out. This is the Pathfinder Mini Infernos. Essentially, it's a coated, almost like a makeup pad, but it's a really good fire starter. You don't have to use the whole disc. You can break it up into small pieces. They're really, really good. I like them a lot. I also have a 6-hour candle tin. Burns for 6 hours, burns pretty hot. You could actually use this in a pinch. If you have that little triangle shelter with the reflective, just keep a little bit of, air, letting the air flow, but you can warm up a little shelter in there with a candle pretty well, actually. You'd be surprised. Some people even like to put the candle, put it on top of like the tin, get the heat from that. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I also have some soap. This is an anti-odor scent killer soap, mostly used for hunting, but it could come in handy. And I got a couple bobbers in here for fishing. I'm gonna dump all this crap back in here for now. Try not to be too loud because this mic is right on my chest. You know what sucks is I'm not gonna have time to put all this back tonight. I'm gonna go to work without my kit and my setup. Might have to bring my summer setup just as a backup. All right, I'm gonna pull the rest of this crap out. These are extra batteries for the Fortrex GPS. This is a nice bushcraft tool. You can do a lot of stuff with these. You can make, put holes in trees, make the peg, use it as a coat hanger. You can make legs, you can make a chair. There's so much stuff you can do with these. It's pretty crazy. They're really, really handy. It's kind of a cheap case, but it's a decent tool. I've used it before. There's plenty of greenery out in the woods if you need to wipe yourself, but I still, at least in the beginning, if I have to be gone, I really still want some toilet paper, so I keep a couple rolls, small rolls of toilet paper. And I usually have wet wipes, but I don't know what happened to them. They make a really good full body wet wipe, but they freeze too easily, so they're not good to keep in your winter kit anyway. Same reason I don't carry like a camp shower in the winter. That's what I have that quick drying towel for. You can just kind of sponge off with that. It's a little easier. You'll find out if you ever go to like one of Graybeard Green Beret's live courses, because a lot of them are 4 full days, and they don't have showers, so you got to do a lot of stuff old school. But if you ever had a chance to go to one of his, man, his classes are amazing. Really amazing. Make sure I didn't miss anything. I think I have a couple more pouches. And I think that's pretty much it. I have a bunch. These are not coated with Vaseline because I have tinder tabs that I like to use that are treated and they're waterproof and they're not messy like old school cotton balls and Vaseline, but I still keep the cotton balls. This is number 36 Twisted Tarred Bank Line. This is amazing for making really nice knots and making really tight knots. I like this a lot. Sometimes, like Graybearded Green Beret makes a really nice pre-made rapid ridge line, he calls it, and the main line is from paracord, and then all the tie-off points are with the bank line. They have different versions of the bank line. I really like this number 36 Twisted Tard. We sell this too. Again, most of the stuff I sell on the website, but not everything. 550 paracord. Make sure you're buying actual 550 spec paracord. It's got 7 strands in the inside. You can use those strands for, you know, fishing line. There's a lot of things you can do with the strands inside, and they make all kinds of different paracord with even fire starters inside. There's tons of stuff out there. This is just more of the bank line. So I like to carry these if I'm gutting a fish or processing an animal, no matter what it is. These are level 5 cut resistant gloves. You can get these on Amazon pretty cheap. But the level 5 cut resistant gloves, you're not going to slice your hand open. They're not stab proof, a little stab, but not a big stab. But they're slice proof. They make, I believe, they go up to 5, and 5 is one of the best ratings in regular fabric. But these are really amazing because the last thing you want to do in a survival situation, or even camping or hiking, is be doing something and then cut your hand open and be bleeding, have to put on a tourniquet, and then have to get to the hospital within a couple hours. And you don't want to get infections. If you're out in the wilderness long term and you get a cut and you don't take care of it and you can't irrigate it enough, or you don't have whatever, if it gets dirt in it, you just want to avoid getting injured and getting cut like the plague, especially in a survival situation. So I do love to have cut resistant gloves in my kit. I also keep them because my son's 15 and he doesn't have them in his kit, so if I need him to do something, I'd prefer that he wears the cut-resistant gloves when he does it, to be safe. Not just because I'm a paranoid father, but again, you do not want to cut yourself in the middle of the woods. So I have a couple. This is old school. This is like what they call the Vietnam era old school snare wire. It's a crap load of snare wire on this. I think I got this on eBay about a decade ago. This is the candle tin. There are 3 separate candles in here. The 4-hour, they're called the nano candles. These are pretty awesome. This is a sharpening puck. I have different grit, a rougher grit, and then a lighter grit. You know what I didn't see, and I showed it in my last live stream when I went over this. Streamlabs, the Highlands. Please refrain from posting Zalgo. What does that mean? I don't even know what Zalgo is. I didn't even know Streamlabs, I had it set up on here to talk like a moderator. That's weird. Anyway, if anybody knows what Zalgo is, I'd be interested because I don't even know what that is. The Highlands. Hello from the Highlands of Scotland. Streamlabs says, I need to be added as a moderator in order to remove messages, perform this action. Oh, so Streamlabs, you're talking to me, Mr. AI? You're saying I have to add you as a moderator? I'm not sure I want to do that. And it's kind of creepy that you just kind of answered my question when you're a computer. You can do this by clicking blah, blah, blah to the right of my name. Yeah, I don't think so. Sounds like you're going to block people for weird stuff, so I don't think I'm going to do that. Anyway, sharpening puck. And this is another sharpening puck. I believe this one, I think this is the one that came for the axe. I believe this is, I think it's made by the same company that makes the axe, but I'm not 100% sure. And you want to use either water or oil. I just use water. I don't typically use oil when I'm doing sharpening. But the one thing that I had in the last stream, and I don't know what happened to it, is I have a leather strop. So after you use whatever sharpening systems and stones that you decide to use to sharpen your blades or your axe, you want to make sure that your very last cleanup of that blade is with a leather strop. A leather strop is going to get it nice and fine. It's going to get rid of the rest of the burrs. I'm a little bit disturbed that my leather strop is not in here anymore. I know that I showed it in the last video, which is still live somewhere. But what happened to it? I must have not packed it again when I put everything back. That's very disturbing. I love that strop. Oh, wait a minute. It was in a pocket that I didn't see. Ha ha. And remember, if you want to learn how to sharpen a knife, you know, there's plenty of guys on YouTube that'll show you the best ways to sharpen a knife. A knife is going to sharpen different than an axe. especially when it comes to doing an axe. You got to go in a circle. I'm not going to get into how to do it, but there's a lot of really awesome videos from a lot of really good experts that'll show you proper ways to sharpen the knife, especially with, you know, Scandi grind versus like a different kind of grind, different type of sharpeners, you know, like the Lansky system versus stones. They have so much information out there, and I'm always going to say it. I would prefer that people get training way before they even try to buy really good quality, high quality gear. If you're not going to train, what are you going to do with the gear? You know, some people go out and they buy a ferro rod and they don't even know how to make a tinder bundle, or they're really terrible at it. Or they don't even know how to really use the ferro rod that well. You don't have to spend all kinds of money doing live training. You should, but you don't have to. You can start off with online training. That's why Survival Summit started originally in 2015 making instructional films with everything from escape and evasion to desert survival, winter survival, you know, regular wilderness survival. We made one for bugging in, bugging out, land navigation, survival communications, all kinds of crazy stuff. We have done a lot in the way of instructional films. But again, same with the films. You don't want to buy one of the films and then watch it if something ever happens. You want to start training now. The best time to start training is today, right now. Maybe not right now, but tomorrow. You watch a chapter, learn a skill, or watch part of a chapter, learn a skill. Go out and get some cheaper gear if you want to practice, and go out and practice what you learned. And then once you get really good, like let's say you get really good at starting a fire or building a tinder bundle, once you get really, really proficient and you think you can do it like that, do it in the rain, then do it in the snow, then do it in the wind. Do it in more inclement conditions until you become proficient in those conditions as well. Just like the old saying, train like you fight. You're not going to go to the shooting range in an air conditioning range and just plink away all day and think that you're going to perform just as well if you're out in the heat of battle or in a firefight with some maniac or whatever the case may be. Your adrenaline's going to pump, you're going to be sweating, you may have a little bit of tunnel vision. So if you're going to go to the range and practice, do some push-ups, do some burpees, get sweaty, get dirty, you know, get that heart rate going, and then focus, get on target, get shots down on target. I'm not saying you have to do that all the time, but if you don't train with a little bit of stress inducement, you're going to fall back to your level, as Tim Kennedy famously used to say. I used to run his company as the chief operating officer of Sheepdog Response. He used to say, in every training, you will fall back to your level of training. And most firearms training, most training of everything is a perishable skill. If you don't practice all the time, you're not going to just be John Wick. It's never going to happen. Same thing with fighting. If you don't know in-close fighting, you know, jiu-jitsu or wrestling or Muay Thai or something, there's a lot of situations where people get into a situation where they have to pull their firearm and use it in self-defense, but a lot of the times they get it taken from them, or they get taken down, or they get beat up and they don't even have a chance to defend themselves, or maybe the other person has a knife. Remember, most bad situations that go bad quickly, a lot of them happen in close range. You need to have the skills, not just because everyone says, oh, that guy doesn't matter to me, I'll kick his butt, I'll just shoot him. No, you won't. Not my friends. Not the people I've worked with, the people I've trained with, not me. You're not just going to rip out a gun and shoot me. I'm going to close that distance of 15, 20 feet, you know, possibly with a blade or whatever I might need before you even get that out. You might not even clear leather. Now, I'm older now, not as in great a shape, so maybe not me. Maybe I'm a bad example. But the people that I know that still train every day, all the time, and are still at the range every day, no chance. You literally will not clear leather before you are on the ground getting a face full of fist or choked out or whatever the case may be. So please, self-defense is huge. You really need to have skills. You can't just rely on weaponry. You have to have some hand-to-hand combat skills. You really do. It's a fantasy world if you don't think you do, because you'll be in that situation in close quarters where things will happen so fast and you won't even know what happened.